I have no idea if any of it has an effect or if it's just maybe calling up the focus and the intention for his healing, which in and of itself could be quite powerful. I don't know how useful it is to think of us as normal and totally healthy and Rowan as the sick one, the ill one. I think it's way more complicated than that.
We would not be having this amazing, crazy adventure across Mongolia if Rowan was not autistic. It seems like a curse in some ways, but in many ways it's a real blessing. And to allow it to be. To allow it to be.
And also, this is Rupert's in my life before we had Rowan. We traveled all over the world.
Yeah, and we just thought we'd never be able to do it again.
Yeah.
You know, and we tried a couple of times.
And it was a disaster.
Disaster, you know. And we were terrified that this trip would turn into a real disaster too. And it hasn't. Rowan's just been so into it. And even when he was shaky the first couple of days, he was still into it. You know, I think something's really shifted with him.
Yeah, he's finding his adventurous heart.
Yeah, he is. I can tell you, this is a fairly hard trip in many ways, but I've had harder car rides to the grocery store with Rowan. I mean, seriously, haven't you?
That's true, yeah.
Well, this is kind of a good lesson in this is a high-functioning autistic kid. You can see, like, sometimes you can go out and even just to make it 300 yards up a trail can be, like, massively stressful. Well, you really know how to be charming when you ask for things.
Swing, you can swing.
Come on, let's go. Oh, look, here's some more daddies. I gotta admit, I'm feeling a little down tonight. I don't know. Sometimes I think he's like leaping forward, and sometimes it's like he's totally regressing.
He goes up and down like a ping pong ball.
Am I just kidding myself that I'm not attached to him recovering? You know, will he ever be really functional? Will he have to go into an institution when he's older? Will he recover? Will he surprise us? Let alone will he ever ride a horse by himself, you know? I don't know.
Calm down.
Tonight he's basically just like a giant 18-month-old, and it's very painful for me to see.
Okay?
No, I'm down. I'm feeling like, with the camera on me, I'm just almost makes me want to cry.
Let's go.
On your head.
Ready?
A little bit of waiting.
Okay, let's go.
So he's developed an obsession with this train, and not just with the train, but with these animals here. Sometimes I've hung out here for up to 2 or 3 hours at a time, sometimes. And I've probably ridden this train 200 times. You can? Thank you. Thank you very much. Phew. Well, that was lucky they led us on. But it can be quite lonely sometimes, as you can imagine. I mean, we spent, you know, the last 2.5 years like this a lot of the time, and it's very rare that you could ever get anyone to come along and do this with you. And it can get a little lonely. It's one of the things which I think all parents of autistic kids have to deal with.
I think before a parent can come to acceptance, there's an enormous amount of grieving that has to be done. I think people are dealing with loss from the loss of a dream. I see what comes up is exhaustion from dealing with behavior problems a lot, from dealing with an environment that looks at the parent as if they're doing something wrong, and because they see a kid that's tantruming and they just assume that maybe the parent isn't handling it well. People just don't understand what they're going through. There's so many fears that their adult child will be taken advantage of, that there won't be a place for them. I've worked with families whose adult children are not toilet trained. They worry that they won't have any friends, that they'll be all alone, and when their family goes or their parents go, there won't be anybody around to care for them.